Famed reporter Oriana Fallaci covers war zones of the flesh and spirit. A journalist since age 16, her articles and books have dissected Vietnam, Iran, the Middle East, and world affairs. She has questioned and confronted the heroes and villains of our times and revealed her own truths in moving fiction. We're pleased to have her join us to talk about this book, Insciallah?
Insciallah.
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 Which means God...
As God likes, as God wants, which means, in my interpretation, which is very legitimate, fate, destiny. But it's a word they continuously say, you know, like in Italy we say ciao, or like here in America we say hello.
All right, now let me just tell a couple of things just ought to be said for you. This was #1 and may still be #1 in Italy for a long time, was it not?
Oh yeah, it started, it left like a rocket.
Yeah,
something like 600,000.
What? Before we talk about what this is, the story and the setting and what you're saying here about war and about set in Beirut in 1983, why fiction rather than journalism to say what you want to say about war, relationships, power?
Right. Well, thank you for this question. Because, you see, when I say that journalism was for me like a narrow jacket, something in which I felt uncomfortable. I meant that when you write an article, a reportage, you have to stay within the limits of what has happened, what has been said. I mean, you must be very rigorous in reporting without inventing, without distorting, without manipulating, which I was very good in it. But the better I was in being so rigorously faithful to events, the more I felt like writing handcuffed, you know? Yeah. You cannot move, you cannot open your arms, you cannot say more concepts, for instance, or to what literature does. It universalizes the truth. People can recognize in that story. Do you know how many times I have found people that say to me, the character of that book is me. I found a woman, 87 years old, the grandmother, who said to me, Alekos, it's me. Alekos is the character of A Man, the other novel, another novel of mine. I found a carpenter, 40 years old, who said to me, the child I am the child of a letter to a child never born.
So you believe that Tolstoy has more to say about Napoleon and Russia than all the historians do? And you believe that Robert Penn Warren can say more about Huey Long than Huey Long's biographer can say?
I would say this, that we have understood much better the Napoleon campaign in Russia and what happened in Russia at that time and what General Kutuzov did to chase Napoleon through War and Peace of Tolstoy rather than through the history book that, by the way, few people read.
Yeah, but some would say about your journalism that you were always, in a sense, by your editing, painting the picture as you saw it. So it filtered through your own imaginative process. You weren't putting people in their mouth. You weren't putting words in their mouth, but you were choosing what words to include, and more importantly, what context and what words to leave out.
This is not true. These are my enemies, saying, you know, people like me have a lot of friends, a lot of enemies.
Yourself.
No. It has been misinterpreted. No, I would never. The proof is that the fact my interviews were very long, and I had to fight each time with the newspapers to which I gave them to run them completely, and they were so long because I did not want to cut what was said. Because if you cut a phrase or if you cut a concept, you give it distortedly. Of course, I mean, if I go to interview Khomeini, I don't go as the best of friends of Khomeini. I mean, I'm kind of, I'm ready for the worst. If I go to see Gaddafi, yes, I go as an enemy. Oh, yes. But, I mean...
You go as an enemy, as an adversary,
as an adversary to
Gaddafi, go prepared for combat.
Yes, to a bastard, yes, I would go. I shouldn't say that.
That's all right. But let me just stay with that, because I want to come back to the book. But just, you go to those interviews prepared for combat. You go looking for what?
I don't go prepared for combat. By the way, I did go because I don't make interviews since a long, long time. That belongs to the past. I don't make them. I don't have any need, any curiosity, I don't feel compelled to make interviews. They really belong to remote past.
Okay.
But I went, no. I went to write a portrait or to write about an event.
And in writing a portrait or writing an event, in a sense, you define through the interview the portrait that you saw and what you thought was relevant and not relevant in the whole process.
You're doing the same with me now.
Of course I am.
Because the moment you approach a certain question rather than others, you give an image of me rather than another one.
All right.
It's your show.
Don't you ever forget it.
and don't you ever forget it was my show when I was making those interviews.
Why did you... Tell me how you feel about journalism today, though. I mean, do you have less respect for it?
Don't make me say things that I would regret with tears later.
Yes.
I don't. I performed some journalism a couple of years ago. No, 1.5 years ago. I mean, when they were in the Gulf War, I went back to the Gulf War. That was, yes, I was driven by curiosity because I had seen all the possible wars as a war correspondent of our time, but I have never seen the Star Wars war, and I wanted to see that. And I wish I had been there as I have been in Beirut in '83 and in '82 for a book, not for newspapers.
Why would it have been different?
I mean, well, the Gulf War was particularly difficult to cover, as you may remember.
Because
I mean, it was the other face of the war in Vietnam, the excess of the war in Vietnam, where war correspondents could do what they wanted, even too much, in my opinion, and I participated of that even too much.
Why too much?
Oh, yeah, because, I mean, you know, we could ask for an helicopter to go somewhere like an officer. I mean, we were considered major of the American Army, and with that car, once I got a C-130. I mean, a whole C-130, which is an enormous plane.
To take Oriana to somewhere?
Just to take Oriana and her photographer from Pleiku back to Saigon. I mean, I think it's scandalous. In the Gulf War, there was the other face of the excess, because the journalists could do nothing. I mean, it was undoubtedly a TV show, but even that, I think, if you think that you have really seen the Gulf War, you have not. You have seen parts of it, which is also obvious and legitimate.
Was it, in your judgment, a war worth fighting?
Yes. I said it then, and I said it now. It had to be done. Mr. Saddam Hussein had to be stopped. What I never understood was why it got interrupted. I mean,
why stop so soon?
Because in the last days they were near Bassora. They could have entered Bassora. They could have got to Baghdad very easily. Of course, I know all the political implications, the UN, the war was done just to liberate Kuwait, etc., etc. But, you know, wars are wars.
Yeah, but also they were worried, as you know, also, which they later, I think, rescinded this notion of worried about, the support of the Saudis and the other things, and they also were concerned about... That's right, the Saudis didn't want it, and certainly were concerned about, you know, the powers that might arise if they, in fact, destroyed the Republican Guard and destroyed Hussein, what other kind of balance of power that might take place, all of those things somehow, but you believe it was a mistake to stop when they did.
Oh, I would have gotten till Baghdad if I was...
And is that the journalist in you, or is that
someone else also?
Is that the journalist in you speaking, or the one that are the political observer speaking?
Right in this moment?
Yeah, when you talk about...
I would say political observer if you want. No, I would say the citizen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why, what is it about war? This is a question they always ask of you. Yeah. Why war is it so fascinating? And what is it that so appeals to you?
You're not saying that I like war.
Not that you like war, but that you like...
It's obvious I hate war.
You like the qualities of human emotion you see on display.
Listen, because like one of the characters of Insciallah says,
Right.
the one I call the professor.
Do you have that easily there?
Yes, I have it here somewhere.
Read that to me if you see it.
He says that nothing like war, unfortunately, reveals man with the same strength, the same depth. I mean, nothing reveals the beauty and the ugliness of the human beings, their stupidity and their intelligence, their cowardice and their courage, their enigma. It's a fact. I mean, I can understand human beings in war much better than I do in peacetime, unfortunately. And I've always wanted to write a book about war. If I look at it, it takes 2 precious minutes.
Yeah, okay, go ahead, continue.
It's
And these are precious minutes.
and they are precious minutes. And I always wanted to write a war novel because of that. And undoubtedly, this is a war novel. Also war novel. Oh, it is also a war,
It's always
love
thing.
novel,
Yeah.
everything, many
But-
other things. But
Vietnam was the war that had the most impact on you.
on everybody was there. Once you had been in Vietnam, you never forgot.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget.
And in fact, what we have in this novel is what is Vietnam, is the...
Charlie,
In Beirut.
the story, the plot takes place in Beirut. And as you know, it opens with the massacre of the Americans and the French, the 2 kamikazes, the kerosene, the trucks filled with kerosene. And of course, the whole story develops for 3 months. That's the length of it in Beirut. But there is more Vietnam in this book than there is Lebanon. To begin with, the story of in the very first chapter, for instance, the decapitated head of the Marines that the Italian
in the
Marot
helmet.
finds and
Yeah.
in the helmet, into the helmet. It's just something that happened to me.
You saw that. You saw the
yes, I
decapitated
saw
head
it
in a
again,
helmet.
yes, yes. Oh,
And
you
it-
see
and
these
it's-
things. You know, people don't realize what war is. People see war on TV. On TV, you know, blood looks like this, the of animals, you know, red animals. And you have not the noises. You have not the smells. Combat smells. Smells
Like what?
of blood, smells of the explosive. It's an unbearable smell. I hate it. And the shouts and the cries. Those cries when they are wounded, "Mommy, Mommy," you don't hear that on TV. So you find decapitated heads, you find severed hands, the little hand severed. I don't want to give the wrong idea about the book, that it's a book on horror. It's far from being a book on horror. Of horror. It's something else that happened to me also in Vietnam. Dak To on a hill. I was speaking with a captain, a Marine of the Marines, and he was moving his feet on the floor, on the ground, the soil, my English, and there was this little hand, which was a little hand of a Viet Cong, that in the book becomes a little hand of a woman. The naked little child, who's the corpse of the naked child, it's something I saw in Vietnam, but overall so there is the war. What I sense is about the war, the rage against the war, and the fascination. You must realize, you got to admit it, that there is a perverse fascination in war.
Because the stakes are so high. It's
challenge.
life and death.
It's a challenge
Yeah,
to
and
life.
Is writing easy for you? Or is it difficult? And
It
is it
is-
painful? And is it hard? And does it bleed?
It is
out of you?
easy and it is difficult, Charlie. It is easy in the sense that it comes easily, but I throw it away almost immediately. I rewrite and rewrite and rewrite. I'm never happy with what I do. It's very painful in the sense I always compare the process of writing with pregnancy. It's like being pregnant. And just know the pregnancy of Insciallah has been longer than the pregnancy of an elephant that starts the last 3 years, the pregnancy of an elephant. Mine started almost 5 years and a half. It's I feel as if I were pregnant. I feel sick. I feel nervous. I feel hostile.
Yeah.
I feel, and somehow I hate the creature which is in me. I would like to find some sincere mother to ask her if she really loves deeply this thing, this creature inside her who bothers her if it bothers her. And the delivery is doesn't last a few hours. It lasts all the time that it takes to write the book. I am a very slow writer, and if you want to know, I hate to write.
Why?
I hate because it's the cruelest thing on earth, because first of all, physically, it obliges you to emotion.
Yeah, but
motionless.
But you love to have written. You love to be able to hold your baby up.
Yes,
you know,
when they touches my baby, and nobody touches my baby.
Say, and you have said that in fact in war, after you have escaped a perilous moment, the feeling after that is of an extraordinary emotional high.
I mean, when you have escaped the combat,
yes.
when you discover,
come back alive,
you leave the helicopter,
you face danger.
You say, I'm alive,
Yeah.
I'm alive, and not even wounded. Well, I have been, but yeah.
You have always...
And that's the way you feel, yeah.
Yeah, lived life. I mean, somebody was writing about you, and they talk about you with all the things they say, the most celebrated political interviewer, a journalist and a novelist and all of that. They also talk about you as being inexplicable. They talk about this obsession with living, now an obsession with dying. Where did all this emotional range?
From the love of life, I would say.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always difficult to give at once the right answer, but I think this may be the right
Oriana
answer.
Fallaci?
I love life. I think that being born is extraordinary. It's a great luck. Even when life is ugly, even when life gives you suffering, it's amusing. It's a marvelous adventure. Of course, I always write about this. In the end, I never write the same book. Nobody can accuse me about that. And yet, if you see, the common denominator of each book is always life and death, life and death, life and death. I always go back to that. My love for life and my hate for death. I hate death. I agree with Anna Magnani. She was a dear friend of mine. Once she said to me, Oriana, why have we to die since we are born? I think it's fantastic. It's exactly what I think.
You are now living with cancer.
I did
Breast
not
cancer.
announce. I was talking like that, and it was, and they did a big fuss about it.
Yeah, but it is because of you and how you face this. You were raging about it because of this love for life, and because you look at this creature inside of you, this cell.
I said I didn't know it would be published. This happens with journalists. I didn't know it would be published because I thought we were
surprise.
I was surprised because we were supposed to speak about Insciallah, not about my cancer. Besides, I took off the cancer, and I fight the bloody bastards. I fight it in any possible way, and I don't intend him to win. I tell you that, of course. It's a very strong enemy. And you feel this shadow behind you all the time, but you got to send it away. And we got to treat, I was angry when I saw all that article on the story of the cancer. And
is this
now
the Washington
I feel
Post piece? I don't know. Is this a Washington Post story?
Post
right,
piece.
Paul
Yes,
Henderson.
because the article was supposed to be on Insciallah.
Why were you angry? Because it was about you, and it showed your courage, and it showed your... why do we see...
I know, I'm a very secretive person. I'm very private. It's always a sacrifice and an effort for me to go in public. Even now with you, I like so much to do it with you because it's easy for me to do it with you. And yet, the idea that so many people are watching us makes me annoyed, not nervous, annoyed. Yeah, and such a private thing. But now I feel kind of relieved. Because, listen, we got to face this disease like other diseases. I belong to a generation in which you said he died for an incurable disease. Why incurable? We can do something. We cure it. I cure it, and people get more and more scared if you say such a thing. People didn't even say the word cancer. When I was a little girl, when I was a young woman, people didn't even say the word. Said, "It is a terrible disease." Why? You say cancer. It's like a broken leg. Well, it's a little worse, I must say.
Yeah, but what is interesting about you and about cancer, it is the way you are facing off against it and how you're attacking it. And you, when tissue was taken out of your body, you wanted to see it.
That was my stuff.
You wanted to look at it and stomp it and say...
It was my stuff. I wanted to look at him.
And
I
curse
say him because in Italian cancer is masculine.
Is masculine?
Yes, and I wanted to see that, and it was like... Yeah. It was like seeing the alien, you know, the alien in the movies with Sigourney
Weaver.
Yeah, it was like this. And I got very angry at him. He said, "You're not going to win, you bloody bastard."
Yeah. Are you obsessed with death now?
I please,
Now, but some people see that, but they see
cure.
this and they say, "Why are you doing that? Why are you smoking a cigarette?"
Because it pleases me.
And
it makes me... And because it's a friend with whom I've been living all my life.
50 years.
It is a friend that helps me to write. Do you know I cannot write without cigarettes?
I'm not surprised. But stay with me on the cancer 1 second.
Yeah.
Because you wanted to finish this book. Let's hold it up one more time. You wanted to finish this. So you delayed surgery. Diagnosis for 6 months. No,
I delayed surgery because I want to retranslate it in French and
finish
in English.
The book. Come on,
and in English. Okay, so I retranslated it, and I didn't. I knew very well I had it. I had realized it. I had found it.
You felt it inside of you.
I felt it, and I said I didn't say it to anybody because if I said it, they got me to the doctor.
Right.
They got me to the doctor the day after I was in surgery, and the translation would be interrupted. I wanted to have my translation and good
because this is one of your babies.
Inshallah. My baby, first my baby.
All right, would you do it over the same way? Would you have finished the translation?
No
Even
doubt.
if 100 doctors said that's the stupidest decision you've ever made in your life.
It is not a stupid decision to protect your baby.
Yeah. Speaking of babies, you once wrote a book, what was it called?
Letter to a Child Never Born.
Yeah. How do you look back on that now? Know that you did not have that child.
You see, no. It was not a biographical book. That's a misunderstanding that has been following me for years.
Now you have a chance to change it.
I say once more. You know, I wrote it with the help of my mother. I asked my mother, my mother, tell me, how would you feel in a situation like this? And for what concerns the child, with the help of my little sister, my little adopted sister. And she said, well, what would you think in a situation like this if you were a child? So, no, that book was born out of the fact that those days in Italy, there was a big discussion about the abortion.
Right.
That is the dilemma of giving or not giving life. And I was asked to make an inquest, to write a long reportage by the editor of the magazine I was working for at that time. And I didn't make the reportage. I closed myself for 6 months in my house, and I came out with that book. He hated me. He was very angry because I didn't give the book to him, but to the publisher. So it is about the dilemma of being born or not, or giving life or not giving. How do I look to it now? The way I look to all the other books of mine. Not Insciallah as yet, but it will happen for Insciallah too. The effort, the pain, the sacrifices of the pregnancy for each book. That pregnancy that I said obliges you to sit down. The professor says it at a certain moment. The professor is the character who writes the book, or who thinks he writes the book. The emotion, you give up the blue, you give up the green, you give up walking, your relationship with the others. It's so strong, all this, that when I finish the book, I have a kind of rancor. And when I am anxious to forget about it, and when I see it in the windows of the bookstores, I am not pleased.
Why?
Because it gave me so much pain.
Oh.
Yeah, and I never, it's difficult for me also to go back reading. I go I go reading, making some reading of Insciallah.
And it's difficult for you to read it because it gave you so much
space.
space.
No, it's still fresh.
You know, do you still believe this happened because of somewhere during the Persian Gulf War that this terrible cell began? That you said once coming out of, you talked about, you said from the black clouds in Kuwait, from this war I'm coming back with a wound that's invisible.
Well, my sister, who got the same kind of cancer,
and
she says that is a poetic interpretation.
Okay. What's next for you, now that you've finished this baby, which caused you pain and same joy?
It's a book that I always wanted to write since 20, 30 years, and that I never wrote because I didn't write at that time because
I'm out of time,
I thought I had to be older.
Yeah.
The older I am for the next book I have to write, the better it is. I don't tell you what about because I'm very superstitious, and the pregnancy can end in a miscarriage.
That's true.
And if you talk around.
All right, we will not ask again. Inshallah is a novel by Oriana Fallaci. It's always a pleasure to have her here, and I'm delighted, and I hope you'll come back.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. See you tomorrow night with heavyweight champion Riddick Bowe.